Good morning and welcome to From Recovery to Remission. My name's Linda. I'm a trauma recovery coach in beautiful Brisbane, Australia. So I hope you're having a wonderful week and that you've been enjoying this series on particular parts of recovery to remission for sexual abuse. Welcome to everyone who's new and welcome to the regulars that join in each morning. It's great to have you with me from right around the world. And if you're here for the first time and you're on Facebook, remember to hit like, and if you're here for the first time on YouTube, remember to hit subscribe so you can know when the latest videos are out or when I'm live. Hi Anne, Anne's from Scotland. Oh my goodness, Anne, I think you're the first person I've had joining from Scotland live. That's amazing, I love it. And we normally have our girls here too from Ireland and some from the States as well. Yes, yes, the girls from the States are here and from Ireland. Hi, it's so good to see you this morning, so to speak. And it's great to have you join in and be learning as well. One of the things that I really enjoy in life and have enjoyed all my life is learning. Not learning about maths and English per se, but I love learning about people, about what drives us and motivates us. And obviously from all the mental health challenges I've faced, I love learning about this side of life. And in particular the science as well, because the science helps us understand what's happening at a brain level, and we understand that sometimes there are things that have just been wired into us that are out of our control until we know and understand what's happening internally. And this morning, this in particular is something that until we know and understand it, can be very confusing, can cause us to feel shame, and it's not a pleasant internal feeling at all. So we're going to look at sexual abuse and cognitive dissonance this morning. Sounds like a really big word and a really hard thing, but it's actually quite simple when we know and understand how. Good morning, Nashone. It's great to have you with us. Okay, so I just want to show you a little infographic where when it's not involving sexual abuse, we can understand very simply what cognitive dissonance is. So just let me grab this for you. So when you're looking, I found this. Does anyone remember the Mr. Man and Miss, I don't know what they call them. This was one that I found. So cognitive dissonance is when we've got two things happening internally. So we can believe, so it's right down to a belief level, hunting and killing for enjoyment is deplorable. I'm really enjoying this steak. And we have trouble like reconciling both things inside of us. Some of us, put it on the shelf because we don't go that deep into it, but it does, and it can cause anxiety inside of us too. So it's not, whilst it can be easy to understand, it's not simple to unpack internally. Dogs are social, intelligent, sentient and beautiful. Why would anyone eat them? Bacon is my fave. I would feel horrible if I hit a bird whilst driving my car. I eat birds every night for dinner. I used to be this guy, but then I aligned my morals and beliefs with my actions and went vegan. Never felt better. So it just depends on how it impacts you internally, whether it causes anxiety. Okay, so what it is the mental stress or discomfort experienced by us when we hold two or more contradictory beliefs, two or more contradictory ideas or values at the same time. And as I said, it's internal, so we don't ever talk about it usually. We have an inner drive to hold all our attitudes and beliefs in harmony and avoid disharmony. So the dissonance is disharmony by holding two or more that don't agree. And because the experience of dissonance, the disharmony internally, is unpleasant, we are motivated to reduce or eliminate it and achieve consonance, which is agreement. Sounds like we're back in English class again, doesn't it? Consonance, but it's not the same word. Sorry, warped sense of humour this morning. But here's the thing with sexual abuse. Sexual abuse takes this to a whole different level. For us, especially during adverse childhood experiences and sexual abuse during childhood, what happens for us is we obviously grow up into adulthood, but here we are as adults knowing that the world expects us to behave and believe and be in certain ways, or to be able to act in certain ways as an adult. But internally, we've still got everything that's been wired into us in childhood. And even we have times where we go, hang on, this isn't making sense to me. I should be able to do this as an adult, and yet internally I'm getting driven as a child. And it can feel very, very shame-filled. And I know from personal experience, especially in the past, I have felt filled with shame that I didn't know how to do something as an adult, and I didn't even understand at the time that I was being driven from the child perspective. And it's because, especially with complex trauma, we need to be able to go and learn how to reparent ourselves. So there is that gap. There is a recognised gap in complex trauma that we need to reparent ourselves. Pete Walker's book, actually, I'll just grab it for you, girls. Pete Walker's book has a whole a whole chapter, and lots of other information on reparenting ourselves as well. So I can't go into all that, but I'm sure that you get the message or the understanding that we have a lot of reparenting to do. And even sometimes now I have to take a step back, and whilst I don't feel that shame of having no knowledge around things, because I understand that the adult and the child existed simultaneously internally, I've learnt to teach myself to take a step back and go, okay, I don't know this. I think as an adult I'm supposed to know this. So I need to go and find the information that I need to know around this subject, and then I can put the steps into place to manage it and to do it. And what we have to be willing to do is, when these type of things happen, recognize that when we're triggered, usually the trigger can be, and when I talk about triggers, I'm not talking about, oh, that emotionally triggered me. I'm talking about the triggers that happen from the wiring in our brain from childhood that created a whole, look, we could have a whole manifesto of all the different things that happened, including it changes the changes the size of 3 different organs, could be, 3 different parts of our brain. So the prefrontal cortex, the amygdala, and the hippocampus are all affected by adverse childhood experiences, okay, not just sexual abuse. So we need to be aware of the neurobiological aspect in order that we're not going to give ourselves a hard time, and we're going to say, okay, I've been triggered, I can feel the anxiety. And I know for me the process through recognizing the anxiety and what it meant was the first place that I had to start was flippin' heck, I've been triggered into a panic attack again. What's going on? And learning how to internally unpack every step of that is what's helped me get to the place where I know and have experienced enough that I can go and do new things, okay? And I know how to manage that a little bit at a time. Okay, so be aware that it's not your fault, all right? You are not to blame. you couldn't have changed what happened because it was an adult who was acting more powerful. And I want you to think about the things that it can mean for you. So as a child, we're supposed to trust this adult, yet they're acting in an untrustworthy manner. So trust will be something that we need to resolve within ourselves. How trust appeared in my life was that I chose from childhood, I just trusted everybody. And I had to go back and learn that trust is not something we just hand out like lollies. And believe me, I've just handed it out like lollies, not knowing, all right? I would trust everyone and then go, well, why did I get hurt? Oh, well, I didn't know about safe people. That was that was step one. I had to go and read up and learn about safe people. But one of the key things that I had to learn was that trust is earned. It's not given. And then I had to learn that I could trust myself, especially if we go into things like relationships in adulthood and we just go in naively trusting. I can't tell you how many times I've felt naive. And then that everything gets ruined and the trust gets crushed. Then I had to realize that I've got to learn to trust myself. But in learning to trust myself, I had to learn how and what I needed to know. All right. So it's not easy to put all the pieces into place, but it is doable. Okay. You're welcome, Anne. Yeah. Yeah, it is fascinating, Brooke, and it is very different for us. It's not just, like the surface level stuff like the Mr. Man character. For us, it goes a lot deeper. I was just trying to think, there was another thing that I had, it'll come to me in a minute. So for us, when it becomes confusing, it can trigger us from the brain into fight, flight, or freeze. Bang, like that. And we're not even aware of it until we've been shallow breathing that long that it triggers us right into the panic attack. So it's really, really important that we begin to recognize what's happening internally for us. And then when we do, we can sit down and go, there's two streams of thought running inside of me. One is that I should know what to do in this situation. One is that I'm responding as the child did in this situation. And now I want to know how I, as an adult, want to respond to this situation. And one of the biggest things to come out of mine was to learn about respect. Okay, so in childhood, we come out of our childhood looking for love, but for me, it was definitely looking to do love a whole lot better than was exampled to me growing up. But without the equipping that should have happened in my childhood, and it didn't. Remember, we learn from experience. And I don't know if you've been around long enough, but there's a really old, I don't know if it's a quote or an excerpt from a book, but about children learn what they live. Okay. So it's not, and it goes through all the different things that if a parent does this, then a child does that. And if I can find it, I'll put it in the comments down below once I'm finished, because it's very powerful. And I know in my younger years when I used to read it, I used to sit there looking at it going, yeah, but I couldn't relate to it because it didn't happen in my life. So we have to go about creating new neural pathways through changing up our experiences. So for me, one of the things I've done intentionally is be single all this time. So I don't know, maybe around 8 years, because I want to know that internally I can not only manage, but I want to be able to I know I'm full to overflowing, but I want to understand the core dynamics of relationships because I've never been shown. I've never had it modelled. I come from multiple generations of divorce on both sides of my family. So I keep looking for the key pieces to come in of what I haven't been shown. And I'm pretty sure that even if you weren't sexually abused, you can understand the dynamics that get handed down in your family from generation to generation. Okay? As we identify the two differences running internally within us, we want to sit down and honestly sit down with another adult that can understand. Seek out a trauma coach, seek out a therapist, seek out somebody who can sit with you and put it in an order that makes sense for you. And as they do, then a whole new window opens up internally where we can begin to take steps forward to experience a whole different kind of life and not have the neurobiological wiring driving our life back into beliefs and patterns that actually don't resonate with us internally. All right. And we don't want to go down the same old roads again because they are just so painful. They really are. And then in the end, in the long term, our mental health suffers, and we don't want that either. And we don't want to suffer as a soul when now we can work through attachment issues, we can work through the psychological stuff, and we can live a full, blessed life as well. Okay? There is no shame in seeking help. I know that I come and talk with you and give you information, but with complex trauma, healing is found in relationship with other safe people. It's not found doing it on your own. If you continue to do it on your own, then you're just setting yourself up for a long, hard road of feeling like you have to be on your own, which is a belief forged in childhood. But then you have the cognitive dissonance in adulthood because as adults, we know we're not meant to do life on our own. Now, I don't do life on my own. I have a whole support network here that I can reach out to. I'm involved in a community here, so I'm not on my own. Being on your own doesn't means that we are literally trying to do life alone. We can do life single and be connected into community, be connected into safe people, and be connected in with genuine people who have our best interests at heart as well. But we've got to be willing to take the steps and learn how to do those things one step at a time as well. What if you are on your own? I am on my own, but okay, so Brooke, I think you mean what if you are on your own, you've got no one around you? Then it's up to us to seek out like-minded community, all right? So initially, if you have no close friends, and look, from where I've been, I've had to rebuild my life twice. So I've lost all my friends twice. And I had to rebuild. So the first thing you want to do is be engaged in a community that you resonate with. So for some people, and this is worldwide, some people get online and go onto the Meetups app and they go and find a local group or a group nearby that they can meet up with that have similar interests, okay? For me, my similar interests are in my church community because we serve the local public as well. Okay, so we do things, we have an op shop, a food bank, we have a women's ministry, etc., etc. So it's diverse and everyone is welcome. But that's for me, that's what I found worked for me, because I was in a place where even though my life had been derailed a couple of times, I was loved and accepted through it. And then over time, so don't go in looking for your one best friend straight away, okay? It doesn't work like that. It's unhealthy. Go into a new community keep going until you feel safe. All right. And then what I did, I can't remember how long ago now, I began going to the small groups that the church holds until I found one where I felt comfortable. And then over time in that small group, I made friends. Friends that are still very close to my heart and walked with me, not literally in my life day by day, but they walked with me every week through when I couldn't barely look after myself, through a divorce, through everything that I had to do to recover. And they were there for me as encouragers initially, and then it took time for me to discern what type of person they were and if we would work together. And one of the people in the group, it took me years till we connected, but once we did, we've got a solid friendship that'll last right across a lifetime. So don't look for fast friendships. They're usually unhealthy. We have to sit back and be prepared to wait, but we keep doing things consistently, like going to a meetup with a group of people where you feel comfortable, okay? With complex trauma, we also have challenges socially, okay? So quite often, generally speaking, for us, the social side of our brain didn't get all the developmental needs met. So going out and being social, it becomes challenging because we have to learn a whole lot of social cues and so much more. But we can do it. That's the positive thing, that we can learn, and we can learn to use our voice and speak up and say, okay, I'm not sure what you mean. Can you help me understand that? And we don't have to sit there saying, oh, look, I've got complex trauma or anxiety or anything. We just have to say, look, I'm sorry. I'm not sure what you mean. And that way we learn to speak up as well. And we learn that it's safe to speak up. Or if somebody didn't like that or respond to you when you said that, you would know that you're not safe in a place like that. People who are safe will always communicate with us as well. Sorry, I've got off on a whole different track, but it's all helpful to us with cognitive dissonance because we do need to understand internally the social side of us, because as a child we didn't have the social side taught to us, so we've got to go and learn it as adults as well. But it's doable. I want to encourage you, it is absolutely doable. Brooke, message me the tiny town that you're in, the name of it, and we will find something, anything. We will find something, even if it's somewhere where you can volunteer. And actually, volunteering is the one thing that I started to do when I couldn't talk. Okay, so where there's a will, there's a way. I used to volunteer in a big online secret group for abuse. And even when I couldn't talk, I would sit here and, because I couldn't remember the words either, I would sit here and I would answer someone, and because you don't press enter till you're finished, I could sit here and look up at the thesaurus and find a word. Oh yeah, that's what that word is. Type it in, and I used to give of my time doing that kind of thing. So there is always a way that we can volunteer and help others. And at that time in my life, I wasn't ready to have friends in my life because I couldn't have coped with somebody else at that time. But I could still be there and help other people with what they're going on, you know, be their greatest cheer squad. And people love it when we come along and help. It is so valuable, and there'll be something that you can share with other people, and it's always a good feeling. If we're not ready to go out just yet, and before I go, that's meetups also have online group meetups as well. So if you can find one online, and I did put links in group to one month or so ago. So just Google online meetups, and there are meetups around the world where you can socialise online as well. Okay, so I promise you there will be something that you can do to get the social aspect happening in your day-to-day life. Okay, so I guess your challenge for the next 24 hours is to weigh up, to be aware of when you feel uncomfortable internally and say, where is this not adding up for me? What do I need to do in order for it to add up to me, for me to feel comfortable? What do I believe? And another good question is, where am I trying to make myself believe what others believe? Okay, because one of the things I definitely used to do was always see what would make other people happy and be able to make them happy. Believe what they believe and make them happy. That, what's the word? That brings people who are narcissistic into our life. We have to be willing to frame our own beliefs, our own values, and stand by them. And then we recognize unhealthy people very, very easily. And people who are in our life that are safe people value us for our own ability to think independently, to have a different point of view. And I don't mean antagonistic point of view, but a different outlook in life. And we find joy in sharing our different outlooks as well. Okay, so embrace and grow through the different outlooks that you may have, knowing that as you go from recovery to remission, it gets bigger and you get braver and you begin to use your voice, and you'll end up using your voice to help others in some capacity in life too. Okay, thank you for joining in today. If you have, oh, actually, before we go there, I want to show you something. I found this little cartoon. Hang on, I'll make it bigger so you can read it. Okay, this was about, this is the comforting lies that a lot of people tell themselves. And are we prepared to face the truth in what's happening within us? Because it is unpleasant when we have to go and recognize that I've got two different streams of thoughts happening inside of me, two different beliefs. It is indeed unpleasant at first, okay? And now we can begin to unpack the unpleasant and make it solidify inside of us. Anne says, oh my goodness, everything you say I'm writing down, Linda, has taken 52 years to finally find out why I am the way I am, because of sexual abuse from babyhood and upwards, and because of a severe adverse childhood. I understand. I absolutely understand, and my heart goes out to you. I'm only a year older, and I've been seeking these answers for so long, like decades, and so much, because I had a lot of answers until this year. I think it was either this year or the end of the last year, I started doing the neurobiological research and understanding, because it's only 5 years old at the most. And when we put that into play with what's happening internally, we begin to be able to have a better pace of an effective pace of recovery as well. Okay, so I understand, and the good news is that our recovery can be more effective now and head towards remission. All right, so it's good news, and I will be putting out Authentic Recovery Book 2 with this whole week of sexual abuse information. So video links, what's it called? All the questions that you can ask yourself, the ability to journal them all, to work with your trauma recovery coach or therapist, and more packed in there, so that it all can make sense for you and you've got all the information in your hand for however long you need it, because it is all the infographics I use, etc. Because it's so vital that, because often we end up as very visual people, so having it visual helps us solidify everything inside of us. I'm doing a course at the moment, not to help with money, all right? To help with my business, but to help with money, because I became aware that there was that gap between childhood and adulthood of what I knew about money and what I needed to know about money in order to operate in the adult world. So my mother did instill in me the ability to budget, and I do that well, but I came into an awareness that I needed to know more in order to do more and grow well with finances. And this is the dissonance that happens inside of us, and it can be really frustrating, because it's like, why don't I know this stuff? And in the end, I just went, look, I don't know. And then a course came up, and they put out a workbook, and it's online. But what I did was I just sent the PDF down to my local printer and got it printed in black and white, because I need the visual. So if you buy my workbooks, they're all in colour, but get them printed out in black and white because it's less expensive, and you can get them bound really cheap. I got metal on this because it'll hold longer and it's easier. And that's just because I'm a stationery nerd too. I love stationery. But yeah, the workbook will be available after tomorrow morning's video. And so if you need the hard copy of everything we've talked about this week, it'll be there for you as well. Okay, girls, ladies, thanks for joining in. Brooke, remember to message me the town and we will find something, if not in the town, close by, and we'll work on it to get the social side of things happening, even if it's online as well. Okay, blessings and dreams, and I will see all of you again tomorrow morning or tomorrow evening, wherever you are in this beautiful world. Yeah, and stationery nerd. See this cupboard behind me? Full of stationery. And I've actually got another few drawers over the other side full of stationery. Love it. All right, bye for now. See you in the morning.